And welcome back to Focal Point AFR Talk. Glad to have you in the conversation, still monitoring what's going on at the Naval Yard in Washington, D.C. This is about a mile and a half, less than a mile and a half from the White House. 12 apparently have been killed. That's the latest reports we have. More have been wounded. So this is another, right now this is shaping up to be something that is as bad and perhaps worse than Fort Hood. One of the shooters is dead. To my knowledge, we still do not have any kind of identity on those who may be responsible for this. There's some evidence that, like Major Hassan, they were wearing military-style uniforms. That's what some of the eyewitnesses told reporters. A couple of cops may have been shot who responded to the scene. They've got SWAT teams all over the place. They've shut down Reagan Airport, so no flights in or out. But again, Homeland Security is out saying no known connection to China. How can they possibly know that? How can they possibly know that? And ladies and gentlemen, that is my point. That's the point I made at the top of the program, that there is a reason why this is the first question that flashes into our minds. Is this connected to Islamic terrorism? Is this connected to Islamic fundamentalism? Is this an act of jihad? Now, we know that that's what happened at Fort Hood. That was jihad, jumped up on the table, shouted Allahu Akbar, and started squeezing off rounds. So we know that that was jihad. That was Islamic terrorism on our own shores. Now, we just don't know. We don't have enough information to say. But my point simply is there is a reason why that's the very first thing that jumps into our mind. Now, I want to talk about an interesting development with regard to the Matthew Shepard case. Now, Matthew Shepard, let me deal with this first, and then we're going to talk about Matthew Shepard, because everything you've heard about Matthew Shepard is wrong. Matthew Shepard was that young man that was beaten, was strung up on a fence out in a snowy field in Wyoming, and died in a hospital from his injuries 5 days later. And the story that's circulated since 1998 when it happened is that he was beaten by heterosexuals who went into what's called a gay panic when he came on to them at a bar. So that's been the meme. Matthew Shepard is a martyr for the cause. Matthew Shepard was a victim of homophobia. He was a victim of all those radical right-wingers like those people at the American Family Association and Family Research Council that are always talking about the fact we shouldn't normalize homosexuality. So he's become a martyr. He's become an icon. Plays have been written about Matthew Shepard as a victim of gay hate. And it turns out, and hang on because I'm going to give you the details, everything you have heard about Matthew Shepard is wrong. The myth of his martyrdom on the altar of homosexuality is an absolute, total, complete myth. It's a fabrication. It's a lie. It's amazing how much of the agenda of the left, by the way, is built on lies. Roe v. Wade was built on a lie. Norma Jean McCorvey came forward after she came to faith in Christ and became pro-life. She says that whole thing was predicated and built and based on a lie. Supreme Court issued a ruling prohibiting any kind of restriction on abortion based completely on a lie. The Doe v. Bolton case, that too, was based on a lie. The Lawrence v. Texas case in 2003, where the Supreme Court said you can't criminalize sodomy, that was based on a lie. The two guys that were a part of that, the Lawrence that was a part of that, he wasn't involved in homosexual sex with the other guy. They weren't even a gay couple. There was no homosexuality involved with the two guys that became the key players in that whole deal. So it was predicated on a lie. So you think of Matthew Shepard, you think of Lawrence v. Texas, you think of Roe v. Wade, you think of Doe v. Bolton, all of those based on absolute fabrications, absolute, total, bald-faced lies. Now, why is that? Ladies and gentlemen, it's for one simple reason. The truth is not on their side, so they have to make stuff up. That's what's going on here. That's what the left does. It's like taqiyya. It's like the Muslim doctrine that you can lie if it will advance the cause of Islam. It's perfectly appropriate. You're honored if you do it in the Islamic faith. If you lie, as long as it's to advance the cause of Islam, that's fine. You can lie through your teeth. You can lie under oath. You can lie when you take the oath of office. You can lie when you take an oath as a soldier in the United States military. You can lie through your teeth. Those words do not mean a single solitary thing. If your intention is to betray those words, and those promises. You can lie on oath on the stand if it's to advance the cause of Islam. So, and the same thing is true of the left. The left has its own version of taqiyya. That is, you can lie if it will advance the cause of the homosexual agenda. You can lie through your teeth. You can make stuff up. You can fabricate stuff. You don't have to have anything you say be rooted or based in truth or in reality and biology, genetics, research. You can just make stuff up on the fly. So the left homosexual lobby believes in taqiyya just as much as Muslims do. Now, here's a piece. Before I get to the Matthew Shepard thing, it's interesting. If you've ever seen pictures of these gay pride parades, one of the ways that we've been made progress here at AFA against Home Depot, for instance, is we just simply showed what happened on Home Depot floats, the way people were dressed, the way they flaunted their sexuality. Jeff and I were in San Francisco last year to check see if Home Depot was going to be a part of the gay pride parade in San Francisco. Hey, Jeff, grab your mic and turn it on because I want people to hear this.
I'm with you.
Okay, Jeff, you and I, we went together to San Francisco last year in order to be present at this gay pride festival in San Francisco, right in downtown San Francisco, right in front of City Hall. I mean, 6 or 7 city blocks just filled with booths and displays and homosexual people and homosexual performances and stage acts featuring homosexuals. And Jeff, do you remember, now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you for the next few minutes, this is going to be adult-themed material. If you got tender ears, you might want to take note of that because this is simply the truth. We're not going to be salacious here, but we're going to be talking about stuff that might make you uncomfortable if you've got young children listening to it. So with that as a warning, Jeff, when we walked over to the gay pride event, what was just about absolutely the first thing that we saw?
4 men walking with nothing on but a pair of tennis shoes and floppy hats. Completely
naked as jaybirds.
Yeah.
And I got pictures on my iPhone. I mean, NSA is liable to book me for some pornography offense because I took pictures from the front and the back just to have the photographic proof. This is right out in front of God and everybody. This is what goes on at these gay pride events. And Jeff, we came to a booth where the San Francisco police were actually recruiting homosexuals to become part of the San Francisco Police Department.
I remember that. You asked them.
Yeah, and when we asked the police officer, I asked him, is there some kind of ordinance against public nudity in San Francisco? And tell us how that conversation went.
He kind of looked at you and said, "You're not from San Francisco, are you?" And he with a straight face looked at you and said, "Look, we know that it's the law, but if we did anything about that, we would lose our jobs tomorrow."
So this guy said, look, this is a Saturday. He says, if I arrest a guy for breaking that law here at a gay pride parade, I'm out of a job. I'm out of work. My career in law enforcement is finished. They were the San Francisco police, openly permitting this violation of a city ordinance and actually recruiting people from the very place where the law was being violated. All right, Jeff, listen, I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Well, here's what I want to get to. Here's a story out of Dallas, Texas. Dallas area homosexual activists reacted with anger, this is on LifeSite News, and disappointment this week after city officials pledged to crack down on lewdness and nudity at the annual Gay Pride Parade. So they've had so much lewdness, so much nudity, so much flaunting of bizarre sexuality at the Gay Pride Parade in Dallas. They're going to crack down on it this year, and it is teeing off homosexual activists. And here again, I want to remind you, if you brought your young child, tender ears, back on the program because you thought we were done with that, we're not. Again, I'm just reading you from LifeSite News, ladies and gentlemen. Please understand that. And I'm just telling you the truth here because I want you to understand what's going on in our culture. Here we go. LifeSite News. While past parades have featured bare-breasted women and men in tight, wet underwear with visible genitalia, Dallas law enforcement said the city will no longer turn a blind eye to such violations of city and state law. So in other words, you've had simulated sex acts going on, you've had nudity, you've had lewdness, you've had the sexual perversity being flaunted in public despite the fact that both city ordinances and state law prohibit it. The executive director of the Tavern Guild, this is the group that organizes the parade, says, police have looked the other way for years and years and years, but public lewdness and nudity in public is not going to continue to be tolerated. You can certainly still express yourself, but if your way of expressing yourself is to be naked or to be aroused in public, then it's inappropriate, and I think most of the community agrees with that. They're making a rule that everybody's got to wear swimsuits at a minimum. Apparently, most of them were showing up in their skivvies or less. Now, they're complaining about it. Here's Daniel Cates on his Facebook page. The queer, again, that's his word. They use that word. It's like the N-word. Apparently, it's okay when they use it. It's not okay when we do. The queer is effectively being erased from our Pride celebration. I urge you all to openly defy the Tavern Guild. That is the parade organizers. Now, it's an interesting challenge for Dallas policeman Jeremy Leby, who himself is an open homosexual, and he's responsible to oversee 95 law enforcement officers who have been assigned to the parade route. So we'll see how all of this turns out. I got a homosexual policeman is in charge of cracking down on public indecency and lewdness at the Dallas Gay Pride Parade. So we'll see what transpires and get back. But, again, my point here is to illustrate just how flagrant homosexual agenda and the homosexual lobby and homosexual activists have become. How shameless, how they're dishonoring themselves, dishonoring their bodies. They glory. Paul refers to those who are enemies of the cross in Philippians 3 as those who glory in their shame. In other words, they glory in the things of which they ought to be ashamed. They glory in things that ought to be a source of embarrassment to them. But rather than being embarrassing, humiliating, degrading, shameful, embarrassing to them, they glory in that. They take pride in that. And apparently the Dallas Police Department, City Fathers, they've had just about enough of people glorying in their shame. Focal Point AFR Talk back in 2.